That's Romans 1. You say, how do you know that? Because he describes it. He introduces the wrath in verse 18, and verse 24, he describes it. Therefore, here's the description of it. God gave them up. Verse 26. For this reason, God gave them up. Verse 28, middle of the verse. God gave them up. That's abandonment. This is the wrath that it's talking about here. Now, this is very important to understand. If you want to understand what's happening in the culture, there comes a point when God gives them up. What a frightening thought. What does that mean? It is the removal of restraining grace. It is the turning over of a culture to the consequences of its own choices. It is sin upon sin upon sin, escalated without divine intervention. God lets them go. Does this happen often? Oh, Acts 14. God has permitted all the nations of the past to go their own way. It's the story of history. It's the cycle of history. They all go that way, and God steps back. And that's why nations go out of existence. God steps back. It's a form of divine judgment and leaves them to the consequence of their own choices. You ever read the decline and fall of the Roman Empire? Nobody outside defeated them. They went out of existence in the throes of the consequence of their own iniquities. I can't speak for your nation. I can sure speak for ours. I believe America right now is experiencing this wrath. I don't think we're on the brink of God's wrath. I think we're right in the middle of it. You say, how do you know when this is happening? It tells you how you know. Follow the process. Verse 24. Here's first step. God gave them over in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, that their bodies might be dishonored among them. The first step when God gives a nation over is they become preoccupied with immorality. Okay? That's the first step. They become driven by passion and lust and sexual sin, and they dishonor their bodies with each other. The first step that occurs in a nation abandoned by God is sexual immorality. It becomes a pornographic culture. We saw this in the sexual revolution in America in the 60s and 70s, and then full bore in the 80s. And now it's just taken over our country. But look at verse 28. Or 26, and see the second step. The second step, God gave them over first to immorality. Second step, for this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions. And then he goes on to describe what sin? Homosexuality. Starting with lesbianism, women exchanging the natural function for what is unnatural, and then men doing the same. You can tell when God has activated the wrath of abandonment, because the first step is the society becomes preoccupied with sexual sin, and then it descends one step below that and becomes preoccupied with homosexuality.